Good morning, children. Welcome to your history class. Today, we are going to learn about the advent of Europeans, particularly the Portuguese. So, let's start. After the capture of Constantinople by the Turks in AD CE 1453, the land route between India and Europe was closed. So Constantinople, which is Istanbul, Turkey, which was with the Roman Empire during the 15th century, was captured by the Turkish. So the Constantinople was between Europe and India, and when Constantinople went into the hands of the Turkish people or the Ottoman Empire, the Turks. Okay, so when Constantinople went into the hands of the Turks, there was no direct land route between India and Europe, because between India and Europe there is Constantinople, which is now in the hands of Turks and not in the hands of the Roman Empire. So that became an issue. The Turks penetrated into North Africa and the Balkan Peninsula. So the Turks not only captured Constantinople, but they also penetrated into North Africa. You can see Africa is here, and they penetrated into all those regions as well. So what happened as a result? The Europeans did not have any direct route or way to discover the East, which is the Indian subcontinent, the Asia, and they had to find an alternative sea route. So what happened? We will look at the Portugal invasion of India. Amongst the entire European nations, Portugal was the foremost to make a dynamic attempt to discover a sea route to India. So amongst all the European nations, Portugal was the first nation to discover, like to find out a sea route, like as a route through the sea by which they can reach India. Prince Henry of Portugal, who is commonly known as the Navigator, encouraged his countrymen to take up the adventurous life of exploring the unknown regions of the world. So we are talking about the time period 1400s, which is the 15th century. So today, all parts of the world are discovered. If you look at the world map, the entire world is there. But back then, the entire world was not discovered like that. Many areas were there, but there was no common information about those regions. So what happened? Prince Henry of Portugal, the Portugal prince, asked his countrymen. So Prince Henry is known as the Navigator because he was very excited to find out, to discover places. So he encouraged his countrymen to take up the initiative of finding out about the unexplored regions of the world. And Bartolome Dias, a Portuguese sailor, reached the southernmost point of Africa in 1487. So, Dias is a Portuguese sailor who reached the southernmost point of Africa, that is the Cape of Good Hope, in 1487. So, by 1487, the Portugal people had reached the southernmost point of Africa, which is the Cape of Good Hope. And for this purpose, Dias was patronized. Patronized means appreciated, honored by King John II. So that's what happened. And now we are going to look at Vasco da Gama. What did Vasco da Gama do? Vasco da Gama is one name that I'm sure all of you would have heard of before. Vasco da Gama, another Portuguese sailor, reached the southernmost point of Africa, and he continued his journey to Mozambique, from where he sailed to India with the help of an Indian pilot. So what happened? Vasco da Gama was another Portuguese sailor, and he reached the same point, Cape of Good Hope, and from there he went on to Mozambique. You can see the small green dot here. That place is Mozambique. And from Mozambique, he sailed again and discovered India. How did he discover India? He discovered India with the help of an Indian pilot, Indian sailor, who would take him to this area. In AD CE 1498, so in 1498, Vasco da Gama reaches Calicut. Calicut is a place in Kerala, where he was cordially invited by the King Zamorin, the ruler of Calicut. So the ruler of Calicut is known as King Zamorin, and Vasco da Gama was received by the king of Calicut, that is King Zamarin. Zamarin is not his name per se, it is the title. The king of Calicut will be known as Zamarin. It is not his name. And then after Vasco da Gama, a second Portuguese navigator, Pedro Alvares Cabral. So his name is Pedro Alvares Cabral. He is the second Portuguese navigator. First was Vasco da Gama, who came to India. Okay, Vasco da Gama is not the first Portuguese navigator, but Vasco da Gama is the first Portuguese navigator who came to India. And after Vasco da Gama, there was Pedro Alvares Cabral, who sailed to India following the route discovered by Vasco da Gama with 13 ships and a few hundred soldiers in 1500. So when did Vasco da Gama reach India? 1498, right? 2 years, exactly 2 years later, Pedro Alvares Cabral comes with 13 ships and hundreds of soldiers in the ship. So what are you able to see here? Like, they are bringing more Portugal men into the country. Okay. On his arrival at Calicut, there arose conflicts between Portuguese and King Zamarin. So earlier it was just Vasco da Gama and King Zamarin, and there wasn't much conflict. But then one more Portuguese sailor came there with 13 ships and few hundred people. So Zamarin felt threatened, like, okay, this new person is bringing so much force along with him, and it's very genuine that the king felt threatened. He was scared that what will happen to his power, and there arose conflicts between the Portuguese and the king. Vasco da Gama came to India for the second time in 1501 with 20 ships and founded a trading center at Cananur. So what happened? The Vasco da Gama first came in 1498, and then Pedro Alvares Cabral came in 1500, and now in 1501, Vasco da Gama by that time had gone back to Portugal, and now he came back in 1501. He came back with 20 ships. That's like, you know, extra 7 ships from Cabral's count. So 20 ships, and then 20 ships will be having that much men in those ships. And then with 20 ships and men, he found a trading center at Cananur. Cananur is Kannur, if you would have heard the place Kannur, which is in Kerala. So he founded a trading center at Cananur. One after another, they established factories at Calicut and Cochin. Calicut, they landed in Calicut, and they established trading centers in Cananur and then also in Kochi. So the Portugal established their factories in these 3 places. King Zamarin attacked the Portuguese in Cochin but was defeated. And then I already told you how King Zamarin was feeling very much threatened, okay, by the presence of Vasco da Gama and other Portugal men in India. So what did Zamarin do? The Portuguese had their factory in Cochin. So Zamarin attacked the Portuguese in Cochin, but obviously Portuguese people were much powerful than the Zamarin at that point, and the Zamarin was defeated in Cochin. And thus Cochin became the first capital of Portuguese East India Company. So Portuguese had established their trading systems in India, and that became the Portuguese East India Company. I'm sure you would have heard of this term before, British East India Company. So that comes later. Okay, first it was the Portugal who came to India, and then they established the Portuguese East India Company for the purpose of trade. And which place was the capital? Cochin was the first capital of the Portuguese East India Company. The third voyage of Vasco da Gama was in 1524. So we talked about Vasco da Gama coming to India with 20 ships in 1501, and later he came back in 1524. But by then he was very old, he fell ill, and then he died in Cochin itself in 1924. So that is all about Vasco da Gama. Now we are going to one more person. His name is Francisco de Almeida. Okay, we are going to learn about Francisco de Almeida. In 1505, Francisco de Almeida was sent as the first governor for the Portuguese possessions in India. So you would have heard about the British governor generals in India, right? So who are they basically? They are the British people, the English people who are sent by the British government to India to look after the governance system in India. Similarly, when India was being, certain parts of India was being ruled by the Portugal, people were sent from Portugal to take care of the governance system in India. Francisco de Almeida was the first Portugal governor for India. Okay. Almeida had the aim of developing the naval power for the Portuguese in India. So Almeida, when he became a governor and when he was sent to India, he had one aim. He wanted to establish the naval power of the Portuguese group in India. So that was his entire objective, intention, or aim. He wanted to establish or enhance or develop the naval power of Portuguese in India. This policy of Almeida was known as the Blue Water Policy. So always remember, Navy is water power, right? Indian National Navy is about, what is it? It's all about waters, right? It is the water power. So the Blue Water Policy is all about Almeida wanting to establish or develop naval power of Portuguese in India. Moving on, as Portuguese tried to break the Arabs' monopoly on Indian Ocean trade, it negatively impacted on the trade interest of Egypt and Turkey. So what happened? Now you think about it. So, we are having the Indian Ocean, right? Especially Kerala is facing the Indian Ocean, right? And in that case, Portuguese is now trying to establish their navy there. Yes. That is exactly Almeida's aim. Almeida is trying to establish or develop Portuguese navy there. And when they try to do this on the Indian Ocean, it will disturb the Arab monopoly, because it was the Arab power that was completely controlling the Indian Ocean trade. And now the Portugal has come, and now it is going to be a conflict. And the Arabs were trading with the Egyptians and the Turks. Okay. Arab was involved with Egypt and Turkey. So now Arabs, the Egyptians and the Turks are being affected by Portuguese presence in India. So that there arises a conflict. Sultan of Bijapur and Gujarat were also apprehensive of the expansion of Portuguese control of ports. So we are talking about two sultans of Bijapur and Sultan of Gujarat. Gujarat, where is Gujarat? Gujarat is also on the Indian Ocean side. Bijapur is a place in Karnataka. Karnataka is also on the similar line. So Sultans of Bijapur and Sultan of Gujarat were also not very okay with the Portugal expansion. So what happened? There is an entire strong conflict between the Portugal and the Arabs. So the Arabs are supported by the Egypts, the Turks, the Sultan of Bijapur and the Sultan of Gujarat. So this led to an alliance, like the Arabs, the Egyptians, the Turks, the Sultan of Bijapur and Sultan of Gujarat came together because they were not okay with the Portugal expansion in India. So all of them came together, and this led to a naval battle, because it's all about water, and it was a naval battle, and this was fought near a place called Chaul, and the combined Muslim fleet. Okay. The combined Muslim fleet. Who is this combined Muslim group? That is the Arabs, the Egyptians, the Turks, the Sultan of Bijapur and Gujarat. This combined Muslim group won over the Portuguese. Like the Portugal group actually lost this battle, and Almeida, okay, the governor, Almeida's son was killed in this battle. And the Arabs won and the Portugal lost, and Almeida's son was killed in this battle. And if that happened, do you think Almeida will give it up like that? Obviously no. Almeida defeated the combined Muslim fleet in a naval battle near Diu. And by the year 1509, Portuguese claimed the naval supremacy in Asia. So obviously Almeida is not going to give up like that. And then Almeida responded. He defeated the combined Muslim fleet in a naval battle near Diu. Okay. Diu is also a place. I'm sure some of you would have heard of it, Diu. And then by 1509, we started talking from 1505, and now we're talking about 1509. By 1509, Portuguese was completely in control of naval supremacy in India. So whatever Almeida wanted to do under the blue water policy was successful. He was able to have the complete control of naval systems in Asia. So that is all about Francisco de Almeida. Now we are moving on to the third person, Alfonso de Albuquerque. Okay, I want you to know this name is Albuquerque. The real founder of the Portuguese power in India was Alfonso de Albuquerque. So Alfonso was the actual founder of Portuguese power in India. He was the Portugal man who was instrumental in establishing the Portugal rule in India. And then we already talked about two sultans of Bijapur and Sultan of Gujarat. And what did Albuquerque do? He captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur in November 1510. So here we were talking about 1509, and now we are talking about 1510. And Alfonso de Albuquerque captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur, and now Goa is under the control of Portugal. And again in 1515, he established the Portuguese authority over Ormuz in Persian Gulf. So Ormuz is a place in Persian Gulf. That's again the Gulf region. And in 1515, Albuquerque established the Portugal control in that area, Ormuz and Gulf. And he also encouraged the marriage of Portuguese men with Indian women. So this interracial marriage between the Portugal men and Indian women were also encouraged by Albuquerque. He maintained friendly relations with the Vijayanagar Empire. Vijayanagar Empire is coming in the Andhra region. Even with that region, Albuquerque maintained really good relations. So that is all about Albuquerque. Now we are moving into the next person, Nino de Cunha, governor. So after Almeida, Francisco de Almeida, the next person would be Nino de Cunha, right? Governor Nino de Cunha moved capital from Cochin to Goa in 1530. So remember, under Vasco da Gama, Kochi became the capital of Portugal power in India, and under Cunha, the capital was moved to Goa because Goa was captured by Albuquerque, right? Now Portugal is having Goa, so they moved the capital from Cochin to Goa. In 1534, he acquired Bazin from Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. So Bazin is a place in Gujarat. And again, remember we talked about the Sultan of Bijapur and Sultan of Gujarat. From Sultan of Bijapur, the Portugal took Goa. And now from the Sultan of Gujarat, they are taking which place? They are taking Bazin. Okay, Bazin is a place, and the ruler of Gujarat was Bahadur Shah, and they took this place. They took Bazin from the governor of Gujarat. And what happens after that? In 1537, the Portuguese occupied Diu. Remember, they fought. The Portugal attacked the Muslim group in Diu, and they won in Diu. And now Portuguese even occupied Diu. Later, they wrested Daman from the local chiefs. So once they have Diu, the Portugal got Daman from the local chiefs of Gujarat. Okay, it was just the tribals or the local rulers, local people from Gujarat, and Portuguese acquired Daman from them. And finally, if you would have heard of the place Daman and Diu, it is a union territory in India currently. In 1548, they occupied Salste. Salste is a place in Maharashtra. The entire Maharashtra, the entire Mumbai that you see today was Salste. Salste was an island. Okay. Moving on to the last paragraph. Thus, during the 16th century, Portuguese succeeded in capturing Goa, Daman, Diu, Salste, Basset, Shawl, and Bombay on the western coast, Hooghly on the Bengal coast and Santhom on the Madras coast and enjoyed good trade benefits. So these are the areas that were captured by the Portuguese power in India. Goa, Daman, Diu, Salspe, Basin, Chaul and Bombay on the western coast. So if you think about northwest, southeast India, the western side, that is the side with Kerala, if you think about it, Goa, Daman, Diu, Salspe, Basin, Chaul and Bombay were under the Portugal. These were the western places that were under the Portugal. And then on the Bengal coast, they had Hooghly. Hooghly is a river in Calcutta. That area was also under the Portugal, and Santhom on the Madras coast enjoyed good trade benefits. So Santhom is on the Madras coast, if you remember. But these places were under the Portugal, and these places really helped them because all these are near the rivers, and these places really helped them enhance them or develop their trades. The Portuguese brought the cultivation of tobacco to India. So tobacco was something that Indians were not familiar with, and it was the Portuguese rulers who brought the cultivation of tobacco in India. They started cultivating tobacco in India, and that's how Indians got familiarized with tobacco. Due to the influence of Portuguese, Catholic religion spread in certain regions on India's western and eastern coast. So this is how we got the religion of Christianity to India. We did not have religion of Christianity before that. And because of the Portuguese rulers, Catholic religion of Christianity started spreading in India. Remember how, if you look at this portion, he encouraged the marriages of Portuguese with Indian women. So when that happens, obviously the children born out of that marriage will be inheriting the religion of their father, which is Christianity. So because of the Portuguese people, the Catholic religion, which is Christianity, also spread to India. The printing press was set up by the Portuguese at Goa in 1556. So in 1556, the Portuguese set up a printing press, which was the first printing press in India, and that was in 1556. A scientific work on the Indian medicinal plants by a European writer was printed at Goa in 1563. So in 1560, since a printing press was established in 1556, in 1563, they printed a book, and the name of the book was a scientific work on the Indian medicinal plants. It was written by a European person. In the 17th century, the Portuguese power began to decline to the Dutch, and by 1739, the Portuguese pockets became confined to Goa, Diu and Daman. So if you look at this area, you can see there are many places which were under the control of the Portuguese. But by the 17th century, everything began declining, and the Portuguese power actually came down and the Dutch power increased. And by 1739, there were only 3 areas in the country in India where the Portuguese were in power. That was Goa, Diu and Daman. So I hope you understood the Portuguese role in India. I want all of you to read your textbook carefully. Try to understand what everything is about. What did the Portugal do in India? How did they reach India? What are the different events that happened under the Portuguese rule in India? Who are the different Portuguese rulers in India? Read carefully. If you have any doubts, you can message Miss. I will clear the doubts, and then tomorrow I'll see you in class. Thank you.